Give me fuel, give me fire, give me double shot and live.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Chris, and welcome to today's race here at the Watkins Glen International Raceway for today's Sirius at the Glen. This is the second and final road course race of the season, and we're going to see which of these 43 drivers are going to be able to conquer this road course race. It's not as technical as Sonoma, but it is faster, we'll say, as a lot more than Sonoma, so there's going to be a lot more harder braking going into these corners. There is going to be a lot of corners, though, where these drivers won't have too much speed going into it, so it'll kind of feel like Sonoma in a lot of ways. But the really hard braking zones is mainly due to the fact that this track has a lot of straightaways. So we're going to see who can master not only just getting on the brakes and being able to savor their tires, savor their fuel, and even savor their brakes all the way to the end of the race, but also just seeing who's going to be the one to outlast all 43 drivers, rather all 42. But before we jump into today's race, take a look at the point standings going into today. As last time I was the Brickyard 400, which was a while ago, and Zachary Smithly ended up winning that race for the seventh time this season. It was his second Crown Jewel event win, and because of that win, he pushes himself further ahead of Jeff Gordon in P2 in the championship. And you got Ryan Newman sitting in third, Jimmy Johnson sitting in fourth, Ricky Rudd in fifth, Kurt Busch in sixth, Matt Kenseth in seventh, Bill Elliott in eighth, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in ninth, and Jeff Green rounding out the top 10. And then in the top 20 going into today, you have Jeff Byrne at 11th, Kevin Harvick on a really good bounce back right so far this season in 12th. Dale Jarrett with the 13th, Bobby Labonte in 14th, Ian McMurray is in 15th, Michael Waltrip is kind of having a bit of a slump, but he's getting decent finishes now, but he's 16th. And Jeremy Mayfield is in 17th, Jerry Nadeau in 18th, Tony Stewart in 19th, and then Mark Martin running out the top 20. Then you got Sterling Marlin at 21st, Gray Biffle 22nd, Tony Raines 23rd, Terry Labonte 24th, John Andretti in 25th, Rusty Wallace 26th, Elliott Sadler 27th, Joe Nemechek 28th, Kyle Petty 29th, and Johnny Benson in 30th. And then we'll scroll through the rest of the top 30, or top 40, 50, and 60 very quickly. And after all that's said and done, let's go ahead and go to the starting lineup for the start of today's race. So here we are on the starting lineup, and let's go on ahead and go through the field and see who is starting where. As in row number 1, it is Zachary Smithly for the second race in a row. Wins the pole this time around, though, ahead of Dale Jarrett, who will start in P2 on the outside of the front row. Row number 2, you will find Bobby Labonte and Matt Kenseth, who have been on a really good string of finishes as of late, and this could be one of those races where maybe Matt Kenseth could be in contention for the win. Row 3, you'll find Terry Labonte with a really good start this season, and especially on a road course, and Kevin Harvick to his outside. Row 4, you will find Jeff Green, who has been solid into the top 10 in points for quite a while now, and to his outside is Robbie Gordon, who actually got a top 10 at Sonoma earlier in the year. Row 5, it is the return of Scott Pruitt, and to his outside is Jimmy Johnson, who is looking to, at some point, make a charge at Zachary Smithly for that championship. Row number 6, speaking of drivers going out for the championship, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson's teammate, is in row 6, and to his outside is Kurt Busch, who put on a really good showing back at the Brickyard. Row 7 to 8, you will find Jeff Burton and rookie Jamie McMurray with a good qualifying result. Row 8, it is Tony Stewart, a bit of a road course ringer alongside Jeff Gordon, and to his outside is Joe Nemechek. Row 9 today, you will find Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Mark Martin. Row 10 today, it is Jerry Nadeau and Bill Elliott. Row 11 will be Elliott Sadler and the Coors Light Dodge of Sterling Marlin. Row 12 today, the driver carrying the sponsorship for today's race, Jimmy Spencer, with Sirius on the car. Then again, it's been that way for all season long. And to his outside is Dave Blaney. Row 13 today, you will find Ward Burton and Ryan Newman, who had a scary accident in practice. He's all good for today, and he's looking to have a good race today. Row 14, it is Tony Raines, still trying to figure out what his future is going to be for 2004 and beyond, and to his outside is good old Ricky Rudd. Row 15, it is Boris Said, who was put in that Net Zero Pontiac very, very late, as Jack Sprague ended up having to sit out the final practice session and qualifying because he unfortunately was feeling a lot of pain going around this track. So Boris Said is jumping in for today's race, and to his outside is Rusty Wallace. More on Boris Said later. Row 16, it'll be Jeremy Mayfield and Kyle Petty. Row 17, Mike Wallace competing yet another race this season. Good for him. And to his outside is John Andretti. Row 18 today is Michael Waltrip and the rookie of Gray Biffle. Row 19 today will be Kenny Wallace and Jason Keller making his first start since the race before New Hampshire, which was Chicagoland. Then at row 20, you will find Steve Park and Ricky Craven. Row 21 will be Casey Mears and Johnny Benson. And round out the field at row 22 is the return of Ken Schrader. Now we have 6 DNQs for today's race, those being Herbie Sadler in the 02, Mike Skinner in the 4, Larry Foy in the 14, Christian Fittipaldi in the 33, Todd Bodine for another race misses out in the 54, and obviously we mentioned Jack Sprague, who we said not that long ago when we were talking about Boris said. Jack Sprague ended up having difficulties going around this racetrack, mainly under braking and trying to get on the clutch, shift down, shift up. He's having a lot of issues with that. The injuries he sustained at Richmond, unfortunately, were still affecting him for practice and qualifying, to the point where he didn't even make it to qualifying, and he didn't compete in happy hour, which is the final practice session. And Boris said was brought in last second, and Boris said he's going to try to bring that Net Zero Pontiac for Haas. A really good finish for today. We wish Jack Sprague all the best of luck, and we hope to see him next time out at Michigan next week. And then we got some track information for today. So the pit window should be around lap 20 to 27. Tires will be around lap 20 to 25, depending on how good he can take care of them and manage them throughout the race. Fuel, you can go a little bit longer, however. It's lap 23 to 27, so about towards the end of today's race. And then, because this is Watkins Glen and it's got a lot more straights than Sonoma, there will be multiple passing opportunities, especially going into turn 1, coming out of the S's, down to the bus stop the drivers are now coming out of. And then coming out of this long right-hander, yet another long straight, they also have another opportunity to pass drivers, or pass one another, before entering the hard braking zone. So there is about 3 to 4 different passing opportunities. But also we got to pay attention to the backstretch is a possible trouble spot for a lot of drivers, as that was the case in practice and even in qualifying too for some. Drivers were able to escape away with it in qualifying, but practice, not so much. And the question we've been asking all season long is, will we have a new winner or a new multi-time winner? As so far, it is Zachary Smithly leading the way with 7 wins on the season, with Jeff Byrne with 3, Ryan Newman with 2, then Bill Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Jamie McMurray, Greg Biffle, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, Ricky Rudd, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Bobby Labonte with 1. And as these drivers head around the final corner, we'll be heading on to the final lap for the formation lap. But it is safe to announce, or harsh to announce rather, that on May 21st, 2026, the racing world lost an amazing race car driver, a devoted father, a son, a brother, a friend, and a mentor. Kyle Busch passed away at the age of 41 years old just 4 days ago. It has been a tough time in the racing world, as Kyle Busch was respected amongst a lot of drivers. And unfortunately, with his passing, it has left a massive void in the NASCAR world. But just like with Greg Biffle, we will manage to get through this. We will all manage to do it. We'll be there for one another. And our thoughts and our prayers go out to the Busch family of Samantha, Brexton, and Lennox. And we hope the best for them. And we will continue this race in his honor. But as these drivers head around to the main straightaway, there's only one thing really left to do. And that's to send it up to the NBC boys of Alan Bestwick, Wally Dallenbach, and the late Benny Parsons to lead us to green. But first, a word from Pit Road from one of our pit reporters, Bill Weber. Take it away, Bill.
The 36 Winston Cup races, this is the only one where the teams pit backwards. What I mean by that is normally it's driver's side or left side to the wall. Here, it's the right-hand side to the wall. But while the guys are pitting backwards, the crew chiefs are running the race backwards. You take the number of laps you got, then how far you can go on fuel, maybe 35. Then you multiply that by 2, that gets you 2 stops at 70. You take the 70 away from 90, you got 20. And that's the lap you should probably pit on, if that's your strategy. But if there's a lot of yellow, then maybe you can stay out longer, then you might be able to stretch it to 40, half is 45. Of course, if another caution comes out, say about lap 54, you might stop then, see if you can stretch it to the end. It's very confusing here at Watkins Glen.
You were watching Meet the Press this morning, weren't you?
Tim Russert's my hero.
There you go. I knew there was a flashback there somewhere. Coming to the green.
And you see, as the cars are following the Dodge truck, on the right of this picture, you see Greg Biffle. Normally, Jeff Gordon would be there, but the pole sitter of the fastest car gets to choose which side he wants to start on. Going down in turn 1, he needs to be on the inside, so wisely, he chose the right side of the grid.
90 laps around the 2.45-mile course today makes up the distance as the pace truck heads for pit road. We are set to the green flag here at Watkins Glen.
into the final corner. Zachary Smithly is going to be able to take the lead away from Dale Jarrett, and Zachary Smithly will lead lap 1 here at the Glen. Zachary able to hold the lead as he heads down into turn 1. See Matt Kenseth just following suit just behind Dale Jarrett in the 88. Bobby Labonte sitting in 4th. Kevin Harvick in 5th. We got Jimmy Johnson back there in 6th. Zachary, who won last time out at the Brickyard, looking to keep his hot streak going of possibly winning. Don't want to jinx it too soon, but that 80 car has been bad fast all weekend long, so pay attention to that 80 car. But first, here comes that 17 of Kenseth going to the outside of Dale Jarrett. Harry's just got to pay attention. Dale Jarrett, he is going to keep the spot over Matt Kenseth. He is going to be A-OK. They're going to be single file throughout this corner. There might be some drivers possibly going side by side through the bus stop, possibly. It is definitely a high chance that might happen. But up front, Zachary Smithly continuing to lead the race. Meanwhile, just behind them, there are a lot of battles going on. You see Jay McMurray trying to go after on Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon putting in a really good race right now. Look at all those cars back there coming out of the sweeping outer loop of turn 5. And they're trying every possible way that they can to get a run on any of these drivers to maybe get a position before hitting turn 6. See Jeff Gordon, second in the championship, who is on the inside of Kurt Busch. He's not on the outside of Kurt Busch, but he is on the inside of Kurt Busch, trying to take the spot away, and he does. Kurt goes a little bit wide going to turn number 1, but Jeff Gordon, he'll take the position. See, as they head up through 2, he falls just behind Scott Pruitt in the 39, then they hit the left-hand kink to turn 3, then back into turn 4 with this right-hander. Johnson just passed Bobby Labonte like nothing. Robbie Gordon is going through the field a little bit. He got around Kevin Harvick at some point. And here they enter the bus stop, which for some reason doesn't have turns, but whatever. Bus stop into the chicane, and the long sweeping right-hander at turn 5. Robbie Gordon had a really good time at Sonoma. He's trying to keep the momentum going. He has been really good on the road courses, so it is a high chance that he is going to be able to maybe get another really good finish here today. As we got trouble on the back straightaway, it's Jeff Gordon and Jeff Green! Both of them are out of the race! Oh my lord, and the caution's out. Oh my lord, what in the wow, okay. Multiple drivers just went underneath one another, as apparently brakes don't exist, apparently. You see John Andretti back there on top of, I think, Jeremy Mayfield, I think? That is a lot of cars involved in that. And oh, Jimmy Spencer. Of all drivers, Jimmy Spencer, you hate to see it for him. That was so many drivers, we might need an entire checklist to find out who was involved in that and who wasn't involved in that. Get a replay here at some point, but yeah, look at all these drivers. Look at that. Joe Nemechek in the 25 has got some damage. I think Jason Keller has a little bit of damage on the left front. He does. Oh my, look at Rusty Wallace. That right front is destroyed. Oh, Michael Waltrip in the 15. The right side looks to be a little bit caved in. Yeah, the right side's a little bit caved in. The right rear, it looks like it's caved in as well. Look at Tony Stewart. He's got a lot of damage on that Home Depot Chevrolet. Ricky Rudd doesn't have any damage. Kurt Busch doesn't have any damage. I wonder how they got through all of that, but we do have a replay. We'll go ahead and take a look at what happens here. This is from the Lightyear blimp. See Jeff Green, he goes a little bit wide coming out of the outer loop. Gordon gets a run on him. And Green just didn't even pay attention to Jeff Gordon and crashed. Oh man, that was a hard lick from Tony Stewart to the side of Jeff Green. And look at all these cars behind him just piling in there. Oh my god. We got an onboard of Jeff Green to see what happened. So he got a little bit wide. He had it lift out of the throttle coming into turn 5. And Gordon's there. Gordon was there. That's not on Gordon. That's on Jeff Green. Green just didn't even consider Jeff Gordon being right there. Let's have it on board with Gordon. See, Green's high. He's definitely wide. And Gordon's going to make the pass on him and just... Jeff Green just never bothered giving him room. Oh. Definitely, I think Kurt Busch got some damage. Actually, that's not even Kurt Busch. That's Jeff Burton right there in the 99. So out on board with Tony Stewart, who clobbered the right side of Jeff Green's car. Just listen to the impact as this crash happens in front of him. Damn. Oh, that was a hard lick into the side of Jeff Green. Got on board of Ricky Rudd, which we saw Ricky Rudd. He just blasted his way on by. Didn't have a care in the world. Look at this. Crash happened in front of him. He slows up a little bit. Realizes he's all good. And he just full throttles it around him. Ricky Rudd just had no care in the world, but hey, he didn't get any damage from it. Got on board of Ryan Newman in the Altel Dodge. He was one of the drivers, I think, that got underneath somebody. Here's the crash happened in front of him. Oh yeah, and he's gonna get pounded from behind. Yep, there it is. And he is sandwiched in between Jerry Nadeau ahead of him and the guy behind him, so he can't get off of whoever is behind him that hit him in the rear of the car. Here's what Boris said saw. Unfortunate for Boris, he's having a really good race. Look at all the cars getting on top of one another, and he gets hit so hard. He actually passed a bunch of cars, but we didn't mention it, but he went really, really high going into turn 6. Also mean that I think he has a driveline issue. On board Jason Keller in the 04. Look at how hard he hits Sed. Bam! Just launches him. But Boris, he just keeps going because he kind of has to. He really ain't got no choice. But whatever happened with that contact, it broke something in that zero car because he did not turn going into turn 6. See him already going up there, going to the right-hand side because he knows something's wrong with that car. So under the first caution of the day here on lap 4, here at the Sirius at the Glen, Zachary still leads. Nobody came down pit road, it looks like. Although, back there, Tony Stewart probably should have came down pit road. Not gonna lie. This is lap 5 of the race, but lap 4 was when the caution came out. Here are the drivers. This is a long list of drivers that were involved in this crash. And the two names, Jeff Gordon and Jeff Green, that are highlighted in yellow, both drivers are out of the race. And those two names are big because Jeff Green has been able to stay inside the top 10 in points for a lot of the summer. However, Jeff Gordon going into today's race was second in points, just behind his own driver, Zachary Smithly. And now that he's out of the race, well, he's going to lose a bunch of points, especially if Zachary can seal the deal and win today, because we don't know what in the world is going on back there with Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott, he did come down pit road. He did go a lap down, but none of these drivers are willing to let him on through because we are going to green this time. We are coming to the green. Now you see Bill Elliott gets a little bit of space made. See if Zachary kind of pinches him, which doesn't look like he's going to pinch him, which is nice. Good on Zach. He's going to keep it to the side of Bill Elliott, just making sure that nothing bad happens to him. See Tony Raines back there trying to get up there. These drivers are giving them no room. There's got to be a rule or something to ease this over because these drivers, they are not giving these guys any room, and they're lap cars, and they should be up there on the inside, essentially. So why they're not giving it to him, I don't know, but it's Bill Elliott on the inside with Tony Raines and Mike Wallace here a little bit. Pace car heads off pit road. Zachary Smithly will lead the field back to the green flag, followed by Dale Jarrett and Matt Kenseth in the 17, and the green flag is back in the air. We're back underway at the Glen. Zachary Smithly got a really good run down the straightaway into turn 1. He didn't lose the lead that time on the start. He did lose it initially to Dale Jarrett, but this time around, as he heads up through the S's, a little bit of the left-hand kick at turn 4, or turn 3, I should say. As he goes to the sweeping right-hander at turn 4, Zachary Smithly, he's out front by a landslide. He's on the track a little bit, trying to get some heat into those tires. Look at him go right through the bus stop. Oh my God, he carried so much speed going into the bus stop. My Lord. That was a ton of speed that Zachary just pulled. But he's got the lead, and he's ahead of Dale Jarrett now in the 18 by, well, a lot. Let's just put it that way. Dale Jarrett and Matt Kenseth were able to quickly dispatch the 9 of Bill Elliott, so the lap car of Elliott will not get in the way. Jimmy Johnson and Bob Labonte did the exact same thing. Looks like Mike Wallace's car isn't too bad, so he's actually able to get around the 9 of Bill Elliott too. But Jamie McMurray in the 42, the rookie. Now the rookie is at the top 10 right now. He's doing pretty good. He's got a strong run going. Did you see Tony Stewart coming down pit road with Rusty Walls coming with Michael Waltrip as well, Jason Keller? Those 4 drivers were the drivers that didn't come down pit road because they didn't want to start at the tail end of the longest line, but they probably should have because, well, they're coming down to get their car repaired, and to be honest with you, it would have just been better for them to not, come down there at all on that time and just pit where everyone else did, at least the damaged ones. As we look further back, you see almost, well, actually, it would have been right anyways. I would have said Robbie Gordon in the 1, but he is in the 1. He is ahead of Terry Labonte, but just behind Scott Pruitt in the 39. And Scott Pruitt, he's having a really good race right now. It's just ahead of him. His teammate, Jamie McMurray, went at it on Mike Wallace in the 09. See Jamie able to keep a steady pace, even though Mike Wallace is a lap car. It is something to keep note of. So look further back, as Zachary Smithly is just about to come out of the final corner and hit lap 8. NASCAR on Prime did this past Sunday at Charlotte. We're going to do it here. We're going to do a silent 1-lap tribute for the late Kyle Busch. There was the silent 1-lap tribute to Kyle Busch, who passed away unexpectedly back on May 21st. Our thoughts and prayers are forever going to be with his wife Samantha, his son Brexton, and his daughter Lennox. 234 wins across all 3 national series, a 2-time Cup champ, the 2009 O'Reilly Series champ. He won the Southern 500. He went back-to-back in the Brickyard in 2015 and 2016, and he became the 2018 Coca-Cola 600 winner as well. He won 3 of the 4 Crown Jewel events, and even though he didn't win the Daytona 500, that don't mean a darn thing because Kyle Busch had an illustrious career, and we will remember him forever. And when we get to 2004, I'm breaking the 4th wall, but when we get to 2004, and 2005 especially, we're going to see that 5 car of Kyle Busch a lot, more than likely. But going back into the reality of 2003, had a couple of battles going on throughout the field, and now, as a matter of fact, the top really 5 positions have changed now. Smithly still remains the leader, but Matt Kenseth is now in 2nd, with Jimmy Johnson is sitting in 3rd. And you got Dale Jarrett in 4th, and Bobby Labonte in 5th, just ahead of Jamie McMurray in 6th. There you see the rookie Zachary Smithly able to pull away from the 17 of Matt Kenseth, so he is able to, he's been putting down some pretty good laps, and he's been able to really pull away from that 17 car so far in this race, and we're about 5 laps away from the halfway point of this race, so it's one of the things that gotta keep in mind. But also, this race is longer than what it was originally going to be by an additional 8 laps. The main reason is because back at Sonoma there was no pit strategy, no nothing, and today they decided to up the laps for today's race, and they are thinking that this is what's going to introduce pit strategy into the frame, and this is what's going to allow a lot of different positions to change, which we think it might. So an additional 8 laps were added, and now we're just going to see how it all kind of goes. Matt Kenseth still maintains 2nd. Dale Jarrett is kind of putting the pressure on Jimmy Johnson for 3rd. McMurray did complete the pass on Bobby Labonte for 5th. But Labonte is still running solidly into the top 10. Chip Ganassi right now, those Ganassi cars, with McMurray sitting in 5th and Scott Pruitt in 7th. They ain't too bad. We'll find out eventually where Sterling Marlin and Casey Mears are seated at. I don't know where seated came from, but seated at. And we'll see how all I think, what, 4 Chip Ganassi cars will be? But for now, 2 of them are inside the top 10 is Zachary Smithly. 20 laps to go here at the Glen with a pit stop on the way, which is going to be towards the end of the race, so keep that in mind. So you look all the way to the back of the pack of Jason Keller in the 04. Definitely not how he wanted his first race back from giving the 0 car back to Jack Sprague after Jack Sprague was cleared to go, and rather ready to go from injuries and all that stuff. So Jason Keller's first race back here at the Glen is not going as expected, but to be honest with you, it's not too bad considering he's just getting some experience, because maybe there's a possible cup ride for him in 2004. We'll have to wait and see, but a lot of guys that are ahead of him, such as Michael Waltrip, Rusty Wallace, and even Tony Stewart, the guys that he pitted with to fix his damage, they can't have days like this, unfortunately. Especially Michael Waltrip there at the 15. There you see Rusty Wallace. There's Tony Stewart. Tony has just not had a really good championship defending season. He is still winless thus far this season. At some point, that 20 car is going to victory lane. Meanwhile, further up ahead, see Dave Blaney, John Andretti, Jeremy Mayfield, Kyle Petty, and Jimmy Spencer running pretty good. There's a lot of cars behind him, in front of him, that are a lap down. They're catching some of them. One of those being the 74 of Tony Raines. Just ahead of Tony. He is really, what in the world was Tony doing? He just pushed Elliott Sadler almost into the grass going down the straightaway. Sadler is having absolutely none of it. But Tony Raines looks like he's going to get in front of Elliott Sadler. Nope, never mind. He's not going to do it. Actually, yes, he does. Gets in front of Sadler, but Sadler's definitely not too pleased with what Tony Raines is doing here. And there you see the Net Zero Pontiac. Boris said it still has the rookie stripes on the back of the car. And as like we said earlier, Jack Sprague was able to compete in the first 2 practice sessions this week. However, during the second practice session, he started feeling a lot of pain in his legs and his arms, and those are mainly from the injuries he sustained back at Richmond earlier in the year. And he did not think he'd be able to get through qualifying or happy hour or even the race. So he gave up his seat in favor of Boris Said, who flew in last second to drive that 0 car and try to get some good positions out of it for today, and trying to get some points for that 0 car for the Owners' Championship to maybe put it inside the top 35 in the Owners' points. So far, it's not, but at some point it will be. But just ahead of them was Ryan Newman, Ricky Craven, and Jerry Nadeau going at it. Newman just trying to keep it nice and tidy, especially after his practice accident, or rather his happy hour accident, going through the outer loop. There you see Casey Mears just solidly running inside the top 25, just behind Mark Barn and Ricky Rudd, who are behind Steve Park, but on a pretty good performance. There you see Marlin just ahead of them. And then you got Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Joe Nemechek going at it. Nemechek kind of goes down the track a little bit, trying to see if he can maybe break that draft from Dale Earnhardt Jr., see if he can maybe get something out of it. It looks like he did. There are quite a bit of cars throughout this field that still have damage. It's mainly just front-end damage. It's not all around the car or whatever, all around the front. It's just mainly the front end of the car is where the main damage is coming from. So Jeff Burns still trucking along out there, as is drivers like Jerry Nadeau and Ryan Newman. And I think even maybe Boris said was another one. I can't remember. But, oh, wow, Robbie Gordon tried going at it on Scott Pruitt, and Pruitt just kept his foot down, and I think he even throttled it up a little bit going into the bus stop. And he was able to keep the spot over the #1 Pennzoil Chevrolet of Robbie Gordon. Scott Pruitt, he's been pretty good so far, especially on road courses, and he's keeping that fruition up. Meanwhile, McMurray ended up passing Dale Jarrett at some point for P4. Jimmy Johnson got Matt Kenseth for P2. And now it seems like these 3 are going to go out for P2, because Johnson really isn't running away from Kenseth. And Johnson's had this spot now for about 2 laps, so definitely not where Johnson wants to be. But here comes McMurray on the inside of Kenseth for 3rd. He almost gets him coming out of the corner. If he can get a good run going up to the S's, he does, and he'll grab P3. That rookie, Jamie McMurray, he is having a really good race so far right now. That 42 car, we haven't mentioned him quite a whole lot this season since really his win back at Texas, so seeing him up here, it's a nice change of pace. And so far, he's running inside the top 3. His Rookie of the Year competitor, Zachary Smithly, on the other hand, is just running away with it. He's got Jimmy Johnson right in front of him. And Johnson's just holding on to second. Don't know if Johnson's tires are fading away or if his fuel's kind of low a little bit. You see McMurray kind of searching out there on the outside, trying to see if he can find some grip, trying to find some speed. But in turn, he's going to give the third position back to Matt Kenseth, who will try to fight it, but he'll kind of give it up to Kenseth because he doesn't want to have a repeat of what happened earlier in the race between Jeff Green and Jeff Gordon, the Jeffs, and cause an accident. So giving a P3 to Matt Kenseth was the better idea. And now this 3-car battle is turned into a 5-car battle, which you see Zachary Smithly just running away with it. Dale Jarrett and Bobby Labonte have joined the frame, so from second down to 6, they are all within a blanket of one another. Johnson went defensive going into turn 1. Didn't know if Kenseth was going to make the move or whatever, but Kenseth, he is still close to Johnson, so he gets to the back bumper of that 48. He gets on the quarter panel. That's game over for Johnson, and that's P2 for Kenseth. It is definitely something that Johnson doesn't want to have happen, but it's probably going to end up happening no matter what. And that's just going to be something that he's going to have to deal with, unfortunately, if it does end up coming to that. Johnson kind of goes defensive again on Matt Kenseth to try to keep the spot away, or try to keep the spot ahead of Kenseth, I should say. Jarrett and Bobby Labonte are kind of falling off a little bit. And as he drives his head around once again, it was kind of a hard decision on whether or not to have Greg Biffle's tribute lap dedicated alongside Kyle Busch's, or separate both of them, or just do one of them. So we decided for today we would do them separate. Obviously, we ended up doing Kyle's earlier in the race on lap 8, coming up on lap 16. So here's a 1-lap tribute to Greg Biffle. There was a 1-lap tribute to the late Greg Biffle. Like I said before the 1-lap tribute, it was kind of hard to decide on whether or not to have both Busch's and Biffle's tribute laps as the same lap or separate them both. So I think giving them their own separate tribute lap and one lap of silence was the right way to go. But meanwhile, up ahead, the 80 of Zach just putting on a clinic right now in that number 80 car. However, it is being reported that his team might want him to come in, and I think Zach's thinking the same thing too, as he might just be wanting to come in and put on some 4 fresh tires, because that'll give him the edge over the other drivers. But all the other drivers are going to wait till probably the end of the race until they end up pitting, but not for Zach. Zach's just going to keep going. But it might not be for long. It might be within the next 3 laps is what we're hearing on that 80 of Zach. He just continues to roll through these corners like he's been doing it for years at this point. Then again, he had a certain somebody named Jeff Gordon teach him about this place, but also his father, Christopher Smithly, who right now is in Formula 1. And he is here at the track right now, supporting his son and cheering him on, and just wishing that maybe a win will come out of it. Who knows? He goes a little bit wide coming out of turn 1 again. It's the second straight lap he's done that. But Zachary, other than that, he's doing pretty good as we look further back to Jimmy Johnson, who's now actually gapped McMurray by quite a bit. There you see Kenseth, Labonte, and Jarrett not that far back. Labonte didn't end up passing Dale Jarrett for P5, so Bobby Labonte into the top 5 is something that we've been saying for a while, so this might stay permanent, I think, for a while now, but they're back behind them. You got Scott Pruitt, who's kind of driving away from Kevin Harvick a little bit in the 29. Behind Harvick is his old teammate, Robbie Gordon, which is shocking to say, but that is his old teammate, Robbie Gordon, in that Pennzoil Chevy. Harvick did end up passing Robbie Gordon, so I'm guessing Robbie kind of fell asleep for a little bit, and he wasn't paying attention, and Harvick just kind of caught him napping, from the one terms, and just ended up passing him. Robbie actually just ended up going wide in the outer loop of turn 5. Not too sure why he ended up doing that, but he got it back straight, he got her back on the bottom, and was able to kind of keep behind that 29 car. Meanwhile, Bobby Labonte, looked like he was trying to maybe go to the outside, get a good run on the 42, and it didn't work. Here comes Matt Kenseth back on the 18, because Labonte had passed Kenseth. Kenseth's going to take 4th back. Johnson's just running away from all 4 of these guys. Here's soon to be maybe 5, 6, and or 7. Who knows at this point? Here you see Johnson going through turn 1. He's definitely gapped Jay McMurray quite a bit, because that battle for P2 was kind of heating up a little bit, but now it seems like the battle's going to be going on for P4. As there he is, like I said, behind you got maybe a couple more guys joining the frame for P4. Those drivers being Scott Pruitt, Kevin Harvick, and here soon to be Robbie Gordon, I think. Kenseth is holding on to P4 and that Roush Racing Ford Fusion. Just ahead of Bobby Labonte in the 18. And then Dale Jarrett just behind them, but maybe Labonte might be able to get Kenseth. Oh, he goes a little bit high, though, through the inner loop. That's what's been mainly killing everybody's run. Here comes Dale Jarrett on the inside of Labonte. Jarrett trying to take the spot. He actually backed off coming out of the corner. Wow. That's new. Normally Jarrett would just take the opportunity and grab the position, but he didn't do it that time. That was a little bit shocking to see from Dale Jarrett. He just backed off and gave it to Bobby Labonte. Good show of sportsmanship, I think, from the 88 of Dale Jarrett to the 18 of Labonte. But as this is all going on, Jay McMurray is actually closing back in on Jimmy Johnson. And as a matter of fact, Kenseth and the guys behind, they're not that far behind Jamie McMurray, and they're kind of closing in on Jimmy Johnson too. So this is going to be the interesting part, is in who is going to be able to take advantage of what. There you see Scott Pruitt and Kevin Harvick. They're getting closer to Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, and Matt Kenseth. Robbie Gordon's still got a little bit of ways to go, but he isn't too far behind. But Kenseth is still able to hold on to 4th. Here comes Bobby Labonte. Ooh, he thought about going to the outside again. Labonte just needs to have a really good run come out of these corners, and maybe he'll be able to get to 17. Kenseth goes a little bit defensive, going into the hard braking zone, into the bus stop, and then into the chicane, then into the inner loop, or the outer loop. Jarrett actually went high that time, trying to see if he can get some speed, maybe more grip on the 18 of Bobby Labonte, and as it's been kind of comical all race, it hasn't really worked out. As we do believe that Zachary Smithly is going to come down pit road at some point. We just don't know exactly when he is going to do it. It might actually end up being this lap. But we do not think that Zachary Smithly currently right now is on pit road, and he's not. He wasn't on pit road, and he is still leading as he's going up through the S's now. But he is more than likely to come in this lap for what we're being told by his crew chief. But Zachary is a ways ahead of Jimmy Johnson, to the point where you can even hear the back of the field. He is that far ahead in that 80 car, and he is not stopping at any point. Goes to the outer loop once again. Gotta get a nice run off. He doesn't go as wide coming out of the corner as most drivers do, but Zachary kind of found out he kind of loses a little bit of time when he runs over those bumps, and it kind of offsets the balance of his car, so he's trying to avoid going over those as much as he possibly can, whilst also just trying to get through the rest of this track about as well and about the same as everybody else. He is slower coming out of the final corner, and he is going to come into the pits this time, so Zachary Smithly, he will come into the pits, he will relinquish the lead if and when Jimmy Johnson will get to him and pass him. Zachary Smithly is the only one on pit road right now, and Zachary Smithly is so far ahead that he is still going to lead this lap. So there are now 9 laps to go in this race. See Zachary Smithly peeling into his pit box. We can hear the drivers behind him just now coming up. Zachary stops nicely in his pit box. We hear Jimmy Johnson and a bunch of other drivers coming by. Look at Scott Pruitt going to the inside of Bobby Labonte. A little bit of contact maybe between the two. They're both all right. Nothing happened. Nobody spun out. That is good. But man, was that a little bit scary. And now Jimmy Johnson will now take over the lead ahead of Jamie McMurray now in second and Matt Kenseth in third. Dale Jarrett in fourth. Bobby Labonte in fifth. Scott Pruitt in sixth. There's Kevin Harvick in seventh. Robbie Gordon in eighth. Kurt Busch ninth. And Terry Labonte rounding out the top 10. Scott Pruitt, I think, will try to have another go at Bobby Labonte once again. But I think Bobby kind of shut the door a little bit on him, or Scott just may not have had enough time to really get to the back run for the 18, but he does go a little bit wide. He cuts back down right in front of Kevin Harvick. Harvick kind of had to tap the brake a little bit to prevent himself from getting to the back of the 39. He thought about going to the inside. I think he still might be trying to think about it. It seems like Bobby's placing his car just good enough where Scott Pruitt can't do anything, and Harvick tried getting a run and passing Pruitt, but he couldn't pass him. He headed to the final corner. And it seems like all is good. Here's Johnson leading here at the Glen. Leading his first lap here at Watkins Glen. As he enters turn 1, Jay McMurray kind of closing that gap a little bit on Johnson. Johnson's got to pay attention. Heads through turn 2. Takes it nice and easy. Hits the left-hander of turn 3. Slow, but good. And then the sweeping right-hander, which we will call turn 4. And onto the straightaway with a random DRS straight. But it's okay. Now into the bus stop. Then into the chicane. To look further back to see Kenseth, Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, Scott Pruitt, Harvick, Robbie Gordon, Kurt Busch, Terry Labonte, Jeff Burton, Mike Wallace, and there is the 80 of Zachary Smithly on 4 fresh tires, trying to race his way back to the front because he has no idea if any of the guys ahead of him are going to pit. I think they're going to, but he doesn't know that. Zachary just sweeps right around the outside of Mike Wallace. Not for position or anything, but he does sweep around the outside of Mike Wallace. And now as he comes out of the inner loop at turn 5, his chase is now on after the sick go forward of Jeff Burton with some damage on the right front as ahead of the left-hander of turn 6. Jumps right on the curb, nice and easy, and then heads into 7. I think Jeff Burton is coming down pit road, and Jeff Burton is coming down pit road. So Burton, Kurt Busch are on pit road. The 2 Roush cars are the only 2 on pit road. Robbie Gordon, Terry Labonte, Kevin Harvick, Scott Pruitt, Bobby Labonte, Dale Jarrett, Matt Kenseth, Jay McMurray, and Jimmy Johnson all stay out. Here you see Smithly trying to gain as much time as he can on Terry Labonte in the 5, just ahead of him. Meanwhile, up ahead, see the battle going on between Bobby Labonte and Dale Jarrett. Jarrett goes defensive down the straightaway, but will Bobby Labonte still take it? Oh, he does. Doesn't give Jarrett any leeway, but he'll take the spot. P4 for Bobby Labonte, but how long will he hold it as they go through the inner loop? And we might not be able to see because Matt Kenseth now is in third, but Jay McMurray is actually close to the gap on Jimmy Johnson in the lead. Bobby Labonte did hold the lead coming out of the outer loop, so he was able to keep the position. Jay McMurray kind of goes a little bit wide coming out of turn 6, but they're heading through 7. I think the 2 leaders are going to come down pit road, and they both will. I think Kenseth will join. Kenseth does join. I think everybody behind are going to come in as well. Yep, there's Labonte, Dale Jarrett. I think Scott Pruitt and Kevin Harvick came down with him. They did. Here comes Robbie Gordon, Terry Labonte, and just behind them, here comes Zach. Back out front. So you see the leaders coming down pit road as we, I think, saw Ricky Rudd actually coming down pit road. Just behind them. Top of the screen, Zachary Smithly leading. Bottom right-hand corner is the field coming down pit road, getting their service, getting their tires, their fuel, any damage, any repaired. Jay McMurray was actually the first one out ahead of Jimmy Johnson. And actually, Bobby Labonte is going to beat Jimmy Johnson out of pit road as well. Saw Steve Park back there coming down pit road. Mark Martin didn't come down pit road, nor did Greg Biffle. So 3 Roush cars ended up pitting, but these 2 Roush cars did not. And they're second and third. There's McMurray in 4th. Boris Sett, I believe, is in 5th, actually. Bill Elliott's a lap down. Labonte in 6th. Johnson 7th. Jared in 8th. Kansas in 9th. I think Jimmy Spencer, I believe, is right inside the top 10 right now as we speak. He's going to fight Kansas for 9th, though. A little run for that 7 car. He might have to come down pit road, though, which is going to be unfortunate. And Tony Stewart and Terry Labonte going at it. Waltrip, Sadler, Dave Blaney. There's Joe Nemechek, Ricky Rudd. Sterling Marlin back there by quite a bit. Ward Burton, Jerry Navy looks like he's got his damage repaired. Ryan Newman got his damage repaired. There's Casey Mears. Steve Park in the 31 car. And there's Craven. And then right back here, you saw Dale Jr. on pit road, but Zachary Smithly out front, ahead of the 2 Roush teammates of Mark Martin and Gray Biffle, who, like I said before earlier in the year, they're always around each other, it seems like. And not only just race finishes, but also in points position. Point standings position, if that makes any sense. Speaking of Mark Martin, there he is in P2, followed by Biffle, just behind him in 3rd. Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming out of the pits in the 8 car. Jay McMurray just behind Greg Biffle, running in P4. Boris said got a little bit tight. It looks like coming out of turn 1, so we lost a little bit of time. I think Boris still has to come down pit road, but might not be long until he has to. But Dale Jr. did come out just behind Boris, so that's going to be interesting, safe to say. Here you see Dale Jarrett, Scott Pruitt now ahead of Jimmy Spencer. Kenseth couldn't get around him, so Kurt Busch ended up passing his teammate. Harvick and Robbie Gordon are now behind Matt Kenseth. Yeah, Scott Pruitt, he just ended up passing him. See Dale Jarrett heading through the bus stop. Johnson behind Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte. There you see Jason Keller on the 04 behind Mark Martin. And then way out ahead, with 4 laps to go, is the 80 of Zach, leading. And as he heads through turn 1, he just has to complete 4 more laps to complete the road course sweep of 2003. And not only that, but also grab his 8th win on the season, and in turn his 8th career win. And that will be a pretty awesome feat if Zachary Smithly can, in fact, pull it off today. Which we think we can, because he's been able to survive for this long, and he's been putting on a masterclass here at the Glen. And it's almost like we said before, it's almost like he's been here before. It's almost like he's been racing here for so many years that he knows what to do. But when you got someone like Jeff Gordon, and when you have someone like your dad who races in Formula 1 and knows what he's doing, and you take the advice from him and you put it into stock car racing, even if your father has no idea what you're talking about when it comes to stock car racing, he'll still find a way to help you. And it seems like whatever his dad taught him and whatever Jeff taught him as well is helping him out, because he is leading coming to 3 to go. Coming out of turn 7 here at the Glen. Zachary Smithly, last time out at the Brickyard, made history by becoming this first rookie to win the Brickyard as he goes way too deep into turn 1 and into the tire barrier he goes. He does keep it going, but he's got a lot of damage to the left front of that car. Oh, that's going to be interesting. It looks all right. Able to get through the S's quite well. Might be a little bit bent in, maybe, possibly. Who knows? Further back, you see the rookies of Gray Biffle and Jay McMurray going at it. They both go through turn 1 quite easily, quite well. McMurray on fresher tires, trying to get around Gray Biffle in the 16. Biffle just trying to survive until the end, trying to savor his fuel and savor his tires. But Jay McMurray trying to possibly get around that 16 car, and I don't know if he could really take it to Zachary, but if that damage starts to hurt him quite a bit, he might have a shot with him the final 2 laps, because Zachary's coming to 2 to go. But further back behind them, you see Boris Seg peeling off to the right-hand side, going defensive. Junior trying to make a move on Labonte. Labonte shuts it. He is not allowing that Bud 8 car to get around him, because Dale Jr. is a lap down, and he is not allowing it to happen. Further back, you see Scott Pruitt, and just behind him is Kurt Busch. Behind him, Jimmy Spencer. Then you got Harvick and Robbie Gordon behind them. Meanwhile, I don't think these guys are coming down pit road. Doesn't look like it. So Mark Martin stays out yet another lap, and Zachary Smithly continues going. Jay McMurray did end up passing Greg Biffle. So in a way, Greg Biffle could still finish off this race with a top 5 finish. And Jay McMurray could get his best finish since his win at Texas back at race 7. Zachary Smithly trying to go back-to-back for the third time this season. He hasn't been able to go 3 in a row, but he's definitely been able to get 3 back-to-back wins so far this season, and especially in his rookie season. As to the outer loop of turn 5 and down the long straightaway. Zachary Smithly just going to try to nail these corners, keep it nice and clean, nice and tidy. Goes through turn 6. If he could just nail turn 7 and get on that straight, he'll just need to do it for one more lap. Does it pretty good, gets on the power nice and easy. And down the front straightaway, Zachary Smithly will see the white flag one more time at the Glen. We mentioned this earlier, but Zachary Smithly won the Brickyard 400, becoming the first rookie to do so in his rookie season. And Zachary Smithly has been able to put on a masterclass here at the Glen. He put on one back at Infineon earlier in the year in the first road course race of the season. And here today at the Glen, he's been able to do it again. Zachary Smithly going into this race was 300 plus points ahead of Jeff Gordon. And today he might have a new challenger for second place in the points, because Jeff Gordon crashed out on lap 4, and Zachary Smithly has just been pedal to the metal all the way through. As down the straightaway one more final time, and if he can get through turns 6 and 7, Zachary Smithly will once again see a win. Gets through 6, enter 7. Picture perfect for Zachary Smithly. Would you believe they've done it again? For the 8th time in 2003, Zachary Smithly wins here at the Glen. Zachary Smithly is the only driver that can make it to 10 wins on the season. He is 2 wins off of getting 10 wins, and it is definitely possible coming out of today. What a job, what a well-deserved win, and what a job well done for Zachary Smithly and that entire 80 team as he tries to get out of the way of a lot of the guys behind him still racing, coming out of the pits that pitted with 2 to go or on the last lap. Some of the ones that Zachary ended up lapping that were on pit road. Those are some of the ones that maybe Zach ended up helping in the end. Who knows at this point? But Zachary Smithly completes the road course sweep and gets his 8th win of 2003. What a race for that 80 car, and what another dominating victory for that driver. You would have told me if you would have told me earlier in the year when the season began that we would have a rookie that would have won 8 races in the rookie season, I wouldn't have believed you. I just simply wouldn't have. But now I do. Now I do. But take a look at the finishing results for today's race. Zachary Smithly wins again today, and he'll extend his points lead by a new second place in the championship, which we'll find out who that is, considering Jeff Gordon's DNF earlier today. And Jay McMurray finishes in 2nd, Bubba Labonte in 3rd, Jimmy Johnson 4th, Dale Jarrett in 5th, Scott Pruitt in 6th, Kurt Busch 7th, Kevin Harvick in 8th, Robbie Gordon in 9th, Jeff Burton rounding out the top 10. Then you got Matt Kenseth finishing in 11th, Tony Stewart 12th, Terry Labonte 13th, Mark Martin with a 14th, Rusty Wallace 15th, Michael Waltrip at 16th, John Nemechek 17th, Sterling Marlin in 18th, Ricky Rudd in 19th, and Greg Biffle finishes in 20th. And you got Ryan Newman 21st, Jerry Nadeau in 22nd, Ward Byrne in 23rd. Boris Said, after being rushed in last second to drive that 0 car, finishes a solid 24th. Ahead of Casey Mears in 25th, Steve Park in 26th, Jimmy Spencer 27th, Ricky Craven 28th, Johnny Benson in 29th, and Ken Schrader in 30th. Then Kenny Wallace in 31st, Kyle Petty in 32nd, Jason Keller finishes 33rd, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 34th, Mike Wallace in 35th, Bill Elliott 36th, Elliott Sadler in 37th, Tony Raines 38th, Dave Blaney 39th, and John Andretti finishes in 40th. In the final 3 finishing positions of Jeremy Mayfield 41st, Jeff Green finishes 42nd, and Jeff Gordon, 43rd, DNF in last place. Words that I don't think I thought I'd ever say, but here we are. Here we frickin' are. Roller coaster of emotions going into today's race. Contemplated if this race should even continue on, but it ended up going no matter what. And now the healing process continues. The racing doesn't stop, but the healing process does in fact continue on as we head into the next race, which might have a name change now that I think about it. It is the GFS Marketplace 400 at the Michigan International Raceway. Like I said, it might have a name change going into that race. We're going to see. But the only way we're going to really find out if it does get a name change is if we go into that race next time out. So, should be a fun one. It is going to be absolutely crazy. I know that for a fact. Second and final trip to Michigan. Jeff Burton won there. That is so far to this day his final win of 2003. However, with how good he was the first time we went to Michigan, it is definitely possible that Jeff Burton can again win that race and get his fourth win on the season. Or maybe it'll be a different winner. Who knows? The only way we're going to find out is by going there next week. But before we do that, let's take a look at the point standing is coming out of today's race here at the Glen. So, Zachary Smithly, like we mentioned, extends his championship lead ahead of a new second-place driver. That being Jimmy Johnson in the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet. Then you got Ryan Newman still sitting in third. Jeff Gordon falls down to fourth. Kurt Busch in fifth. Ricky Rudd sixth. Matt Kenseth in the seventh. Bill Elliott in eighth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in ninth. And Kevin Harvick finds himself back inside the top 10 in the point standings. Then you got Jeff Burton in 11th. Jeff Green falls down to 12th. Jay McMurray up to 13th. Bobby Labonte in 14th. Dale Jarrett 15th. Mike Waltrip at 16th. Tony Stewart in 17th. Jerry Nadeau in 18th. Mark Martin in 19th. And Jeremy Mayfield still inside the top 20. The Sterling Marlin in 21st, Greg Biffle 22nd, Terry Labonte in 23rd, Rusty Wallace in 24th, Tony Raines in 25th, John Andretti in 26th, Elliott Sadler 27th, Joe Nemechek 28th, Casey Mears up to 29th, and Johnny Benson in 30th. And then Kyle Petty in 31st, Ricky Craven 32nd, Dave Blaney in 33rd, Steve Park 34th, Robbie Gordon in 35th, Kenny Wallace in 36th, Warburton in 37th, Larry Foy 38th, Todd Bodine 39th, and Jimmy Spencer finishes in 40th. And then Ken Schrader 41st, Mike Skinner 42nd, Jack Sprague 43rd, Jason Keller 44th, now with the number 04 number next to his name rather than a blacked out 0. So that was nice to change that finally. And Scott Pruitt in 45th, Mike Wallace in 46th, Christian Fittipaldi in 47th, Casey Atwood 48th, Hermie Seller 49th, and Kerry Earnhardt finishes in 50th. And then Shelby Howard 51st, Buckshot 52nd, Derek Cope in 53rd, Sheldon Redeem 54th, Hamilton Jr. 55th, Bodine in 56th, LePage 57th, Shepard in 58th, Borisset up to 59th now, and David Green in 60th. Man, oh man. Man, oh man. Definitely a race, like I said before, that was going to be interesting to make. And there's really no other way to end this episode and end this play-by-play version here at the Glen than by once again mentioning the late Kyle Busch. He was everyone's favorite villain. He was the guy that you tuned in every single week and you were given a reason essentially to hate him. Then at times you wanted to hate him, but then there were times where he just spoke his mind, and to be honest with you, it was the truth. Whatever was going on in NASCAR, he didn't care how it was taken. He was going to tell you how it was, no matter what. We grew up hating him. But the older that we got, and the less the wins came in, and the less that the success started coming in, the more we started to actually cheer for Kyle every time he got close. Close to wins, close to top fives, and just good finishes all around. He may have not had the best of luck in his final couple seasons at RCR in 2024 and 2025. He has some strong showings in 26. And I could say this right now to everybody watching this video. I have some pretty high hopes that Kyle was going to do good throughout the rest of 2026, especially after his top 10 at the Glen. I knew he could do more. There was something left in Kyle that unfortunately we did not get to see, because unfortunately he was taken away from us far too soon. Everybody wondering, pneumonia is not something to gloss over. You might be able to think that you might be able to tough it out and think that it won't affect you. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, Kyle Busch suffered pneumonia, which then turned into sepsis. Sepsis is very deadly. And if pneumonia is not treated right, and especially if it's not treated in a timely manner to prevent it from turning into sepsis, unfortunately, your life can get cut short. And that unfortunately was the fate of Kyle Busch on May 21st, 2026. If you feel like you have shortness of breath, you're coughing up blood, you think you have any medical problems or health problems that you think that you'll need to go see a doctor for, do not hesitate to go see someone. Find a doctor, get checked out. They'll give you whatever you may need to help you fight off pneumonia or whatever it is that you may have. It doesn't matter who you are. Unfortunately, we're all human beings at the end of the day. We may all think that we're invincible, but we're all humans. And that's about all I can really say about all of us. We're all human at the end of the day. And even though we may think we're invincible from a lot of the things that have happened to us in the past, unfortunately, there's just times where going to get it checked out and going to get your health fixed is the right call. And that's why I think it's best, if you all have health problems, to go get it checked out if you genuinely think that it's bad enough. For Kyle, unfortunately, it developed into that. But the other thing about sepsis, you don't know when it's going to happen. It could just happen in the blink of an eye. Pneumonia could turn into sepsis within a matter of seconds, minutes even. You don't know when it'll hit. But that's why if you have pneumonia, especially after what happened to Kyle, go get it checked out. And definitely find a doctor and get it all squared away. Life is too precious to try to be the hero and try to be a villain as well. That's also why you want to cherish every moment. Kyle Busch, in our eyes, was the villain, and he played that role to perfection. There were a lot of drivers that were a hero, and they played that to perfection as well. Kyle will always be remembered as a villain, and above all, Kyle will always be remembered as the guy that didn't give a damn, said whatever he wanted to say, and at the end of the day, if you didn't agree with him, he didn't care. And that's why we loved him. And we will definitely miss Kyle Busch. And that is why there will be this void in the NASCAR world that will stay there for a while. Please go get yourself checked out. Toughing it out sometimes isn't worth it, especially if it's your health on the line, your future on the line, and your family on the line. Not to say we're not all Superman, because we can be Superman, let me tell you, just minus the superpowers. But we could definitely tough a lot of things out. Pneumonia is not one of them. So please, don't just let it sit there. We know for a fact Kyle didn't let it sit there. He had doctors with him, and unfortunately, it just seems like that. I don't want to say it was too little too late, but Part of me thinks it was. And I feel like precautions for him weren't taken in the way that they should have been taken. And unfortunately, a life was taken away from us far too soon. We will all miss Kyle Busch dearly. And on behalf of myself and the entire NASCAR family, we will stand behind Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, Kyle's parents, his brother Kurt, the entire Busch family. We will stand behind them and help them through this dark time. We're all affected by it. We will get through this together. And there will be a light at the end of this deep, dark tunnel that may take forever to get out of, but there is a light, and I guarantee that we will find a way out. Thank you, Kyle Busch, for making all of our childhoods, including mine. Thank you for being the guy that went from someone that I loved cheering for every week to playing along with everybody else when you were winning too much, and I started booing you. Started to like you after the fact, and thank you for all the great memories, the funny interviews, everything. I'd like to think that you're looking down on all of us with a giant smile. Meanwhile, we're all looking up, bawling our eyes out, wondering why you're not here and asking why you're not here with us right now. Thank you, Kyle. And on behalf of myself, Chris, thank you for the memories, Kyle Busch. And on one last note, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. I love you. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everyone. One more message to Kyle Busch. Thank you, Candyman, for making our childhood amazing. We love and miss you. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you all. Have a good day. Wipe them tears. Go hug your loved ones. I know I'm going to after this because I can feel a little lump in my throat. But go hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them. Because life is precious. And enjoy every moment on this earth. Just like Kyle would want us all to do. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. I love you. We love you, Kyle. And with that, goodbye.